Okay. Should be good to go. I want to check this. You can see everybody filing in. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay. I think we're going to be okay. Let me check it. Here we go. Let me check. All right, sounds like it's okay. I like the audio here. Here we go. Yes. I think it's nice and clean. Yes. I like the audio. I think this is going to work out just fine. Yep. I think it's nice and clean. All right. Here we go. All right, folks, we are live. Jury selection underway. Karen Reed case. I'm going to tell you about that, but then we're also going to talk about Michele Romano. Now, right now, JR, I believe we should be good to go. I believe we should be good to go, and I want to make sure that we keep our device in the shade because we had the problem with the sun and it overheated last time. But I want to show you the courthouse is right across the street. And we found, and it's terrific this time because they have moved what they call the buffer zone considerably over. So it's much better and workable, and you don't have people all on top of you. So the JR, I think we are good to go. Folks, again, we're going to be live in just 3 minutes. There I am. All right, I can hear that. That sounds fine to me. Here we go. Yep. There's Lynn Miller. All right, folks, it's Tuesday. We just get the okay from JR. And we should be good to go. There's less honking this time, which is a positive. There's a lot of positives this time around. A lot of positives. We're going to be live in just a couple of moments, folks. 104 on this Tuesday. We've made it to April. Yep. Put that right there. I think we're going to be good. Hello, one and all. Yes, we're on location. JR, are we good? I think we're good. I think we are all set. Yep. Confirmed, he says. That's the word we want. And we are wireless. Yes. And JR, we're wireless. Makes it so much easier that I don't have to hold the mic. Nope. Folks, we are live. Now we're live on YouTube, X, Facebook, also AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. Yes. Let me just double check. Yep. Go. Stand by, he says. Whoa. And we are going to we're going to be live in just a moment, he says, and this is going to work. So we're going to do both. We're going to do both. I'll tell you news of the day. I'll take you inside the courtroom. One of the few chosen. You know, the sun just came out, folks. God is good. April 1st. Yep. Move that down just a little. We are standing by. There we go, folks, at 106. Good afternoon from outside the Denham Courthouse. That's right. This is the real news. Now, right now, we are live on Facebook, we're live on X, and we're live on YouTube. And we are in Denham outside for it is jury selection day one of the Karen Reed trial. Now it's interesting, and I'll take you through the whole thing. Now there's other media here floating around. Sometimes they realize that we're live and they lower their voices. Other times they don't realize that we're live and they talk louder than sometimes we would like them to. But nevertheless, listen, we're outside. It's April 1st, and this portion of the program. Now listen, we will have updates on DePietro.com. And on top of that, we'll have the latest with Michele Romano on DePietro.com. And remember, DePietro.com, which is brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Remember what we say, lunch, dinner, or drinks in the lounge, and they're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. So remember, they also have the market at Coesit, everything that you would love. There's also some of their delicious food that they have, pre-prepared meals. They also have their delicious soups in the market at Coesit, the Coesit Inn. They're open 7 days a week, perfect spot for that collation lunch. It's good for a group gathering. It's good for, maybe a party of some kind, retirement, or an after-work function. The Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue in West Warwick. Now, I want to stay on schedule because we have a lot of news to cram in. Folks, this portion of the program, don't forget about Propane Plus. Now, Propane Plus is heating and cooling in Massachusetts. You can call Propane Plus at 401-885-4209. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Propane Plus, and always online at propaneplus.com. Propane Plus, you can go to their website, residential or commercial. It's Propane Plus. You just go to Propane Plus, type in your zip code, residential or commercial. It's Propane Plus. Now, we are in Dedham on this Tuesday, April 1st. And it is jury selection, for the much anticipated, this is the retrial for Karen Reed. Now, how long is it going to take to get a jury? As you can imagine, there's a lot at stake, certainly going through. I also want to point out that I know some people repeat the false narrative that how are they going to find someone that hasn't heard of the case? That's really not what's involved. What they're looking for is someone that has not formulated an opinion on the case. That's what it's about. So you've heard about it. Yeah, I've heard about it in the headlines. But I really haven't followed that much. I don't know the players involved. So it's interesting. So we started this morning with 92 prospective jurors. And what's very different this time, the buffer zone, as they call it, it's much farther down. It makes it far more enjoyable. This area used to just be inundated with the Karen Reed supporters going all over the place. It's far more controlled this time. It makes it easier for the courtroom. She's also, I'll say this, she's very involved in this. But I want to stress to people, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of things that have been already disproven. And there are people that don't stay up on a lot of that stuff. And so they're just constantly kind of repeating things that have already been debunked. I find if you haven't followed the trial, and when the trial starts with opening arguments, and then the prosecution will present the case, and then Karen Reed defense, they'll get a chance to put on their case. I would just recommend, you're an adult, but listen to how it proceeds. Trials, I find, when you go in with an open mind, they're actually really interesting to watch, and dare I even say educational for people to watch. You really learn how our system works. It is, live. It will be streamed, by the way, but I think a part of this morning was streamed a little bit. They give you, this is my media pass. There's only 10 of us that are selected for today, or for this week, I should say. So that puts you inside the courthouse. So I recognize this case is because of There's a variety of reasons of why this case has generated so much talk. But I would just say, if you just wait and see how this thing plays out, you're going to see two very skilled attorneys in Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, defense attorney Alan Jackson, who's in from Los Angeles. He represented Kevin Spacey. He represented Harvey Weinstein. He's represented some pretty high-profile people. And then he's from LA, though. And then local attorney David Yannetti, who's been with Karen Reed since day one. But Hank Brennan, the special prosecutor, I'm telling you, the guy is just a force. He is a skilled, was a prosecutor, became a criminal defense attorney like a lot of them have done, and then he goes back to being, in this case, he's a special prosecutor. But he's very, very effective in the courtroom. I noticed today he seemed to have the loudest voice. It seemed like a big deal, but in the first trial, the judge was constantly telling Prosecutor Adam Lally to lift his voice up. He spoke in a quicker tone, sometimes low. He had his own style, put it that way, where Hank Brennan definitely kind of booms into the courtroom a little bit. So, but again, this is jury selection. So you have 92 jurors in there where I just left. This is right in Dedham at the courthouse, Norfolk County, right across the street. And this setup seems to work out where I can be away from a lot of the noise and be able to do our real news from 1 to 2. And so what we're going to do, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, we don't know how long jury selection is going to take. I believe the first trial, it took 10 days. So it could be on par with that. It may take a little longer. I'll say this. I know some people find it hard to believe, but as someone that I've sat through jury selections, folks, there are some people, they live in their own bubble and they live in their own world. And they don't follow the news. They don't watch television. They many times they listen to podcasts or music on their way to and from work. So as much as some people would think, it's impossible that everybody must be following the trial, that's not the case. I found that going way back, but during the Plutterman trial, that there were jurors that had heard of, at the time, Mayor Cianci, but they didn't really know much about the case. It's not as if they hadn't heard about it. It's just they hadn't really read about it, or most importantly, they hadn't formed an opinion on it. So now this is a big commitment, because if you get selected as a juror on the Karen Reed retrial, the judge said today, we're talking about 6 to 8 weeks. So today is April 1st. Let's say it takes 2 weeks to select a jury, maybe longer, but I think they're going to be trying to shoot for about 120 people a day. There were 92 today. So you think 2 weeks, you start to get mid-month. Maybe it takes 3 weeks, but then they get into opening arguments. So you're talking about May into June, and then jury deliberations. And that's if everything stays on schedule, by the way. So it's very possible we could be looking at another late June, early July verdict. It's possible. But my point in mentioning that is, if you're a juror, and I saw their eyes roll, some of them like, what? How long? 6 to 8 weeks? I can't afford to miss work. I have childcare obligations. There's a variety of reasons why people can. I have a sick parent I have to take care of. There's a variety of reasons. But they will find a jury. Folks, this portion of the program, speaking of summertime, and today as I stand here in the sun in Dedham, is sponsored by Kids Club on the Pike. Now remember, right now, Kids Club on the Pike, you can reserve your space for your child at Kids Club on the Pike. Now you know of it for birthday party venue, before and after school care, preschool programs. Kids Club on the Pike, it's right on Plainfield Pike. It's right off of 295, right on the Cranston-Johnston line. It's Kids Club on the Pike. Call Kristen, reserve your space today for your child. Maybe it's for the whole summer. Maybe it's just for 1 week. Maybe it's for several weeks, whatever it may be. Kids Club on the Pike. God bless me. 401-443-5336, 401-443-5336 for Kids Club on the Pike. Now also, I received an email from Carlos. Carlos has some water damage at his building, and his commercial building, and he heard me mention, he sent me an email saying, who is it that you recommended? We have some water damage at his commercial building. You want to contact ServPro of Providence, Carlos. ServPro of Providence. When disaster strikes, you can count on ServPro. Water damage, fire damage, mold, storm recovery. ServPro of Providence. They're fast, they're thorough, they're professional. Call them today, 401-941-5500. 401-941-5500. ServPro of Providence. I share their Facebook page. You can also find them online. But this is who you want to contact. ServPro of Providence. 401-941-5500. Now remember, when disaster strikes, don't wait. Call ServPro of Providence today. 401-941-5500. If I had a commercial building and I had fire damage or water damage, this is who I would call. Not even hesitation. ServPro of Providence. Restoration cleaning service. Listen, go. You deserve the best. 401-941-5500. Now, I will come back. Right now it's 1:18 on this Tuesday. I will come back on the Karen Reed case. And I know there's people that have opinions, but I'll say this, folks. If you're someone that just believes that all police are corrupt and all the judges are corrupt and everything's corrupt, well, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I don't feel that way. I've sat through some pretty interesting trials. I found the judges pretty, on the mark. No, I don't believe that all police are corrupt. I haven't seen any evidence of that. I know that there are some people that gravitate towards a case like this because they hate police, and for a variety of different reasons. It's like an ongoing war they have with law enforcement. Clearly, folks, those of you that follow road patrol, I obviously don't feel that way. We work through police, especially when you had the missing woman in Cranston. I think that's an example where, and I don't mind it, they utilize my platforms to get the word out, and that's why we had so many people searching, and we had so many people that were looking for Linda. And by the way, I have been in touch with her family. She's still in the hospital. She's still coming to grips with everything that has happened. But the family of Linda certainly appreciates all the concern and how everybody came out to find her. But I want to just throw that out. I mean, there are some people who, I don't know how they get to that, but they just think everybody, the police are corrupt, the judges are corrupt, the court system's corrupt. I don't believe that way. At the same time, and I've mentioned this, I wouldn't be able to watch a football game if someone is saying it's rigged, the ref's in on it, the players are acting, it's all rigged, every play is rigged. I don't know why someone would watch that, but I certainly would not be able to watch it. Now, I want to tell you about what I know about Michele Romano, and I feel terrible. I have been communicating with the family. As many of you know, last fall, October into November, I mean, it is what it is. Their words. You were the only one that stepped up to put out the word on Michele Romano. And I want to tell you what I've learned about it. But I also want to remind you, on this spring, first day of April, Watson Materials, largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island, is Watson Materials. Call Sean, 401-885-0600, South County Trail, Watson Materials. Everything you need for the outside, the most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island is Watson Materials. Landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone, Watson Materials. Call Sean, 401-885-0600. Now, in regards to Michele Romano, now, first of all, I realized last night we were live, and I was discussing the case, or I was attempting to talk about the case. And some people felt, and I get that, oh, you seem like you were getting angry. And why were you getting angry? Well, because, as I thought, because I have covered the case, because I know the case, according to the family, I've done more than any other media on the case. So, as I was discussing it, I knew that there was a decent chance that the family may be watching. And I wanted to just explain that. Maybe I need to, or maybe I don't need to, but I wanted to. So, therefore, when people start going off in these different directions and start talking about things that in no way are seemingly connected to the case, it just, like, what's the point of that? Try to be sensitive about it. So, here's what we know about Michele Romano, and that is that she was last seen physically in July, living in Oakland Beach. Last seen in July. Reported missing by her family in August. Now, not every family talks every day. Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes people travel, whatever it may be. But the person she was staying with, as I've said, contacted her daughter, said, can you come and get Michelle's dog, of which Inky, she was always with. It's very interesting to me. It's another example of a woman found missing, not alive, but the dog was alive, Charlotte Lester with Chloe. So in August, they reported to the Warwick Police Department. Now, right now, it's my understanding, and those of you that have followed it, obviously we have reported more on the Michele Romano case than any of the media. But what we've learned, number one, was when she was last seen, when someone last saw her, and more than one person. And it seemed to be that weekend of July 21st, that beginning of the week of July 22nd. But I also want to caution people that we don't know cause of death. So, and what do I mean by that? What I mean by this is, now, first of all, the fact that someone, from what I understand, hiking, found the body in Foster, the human remains. It wasn't there that long. I mean, obviously, that's still a long time, but it's not like Charlotte Lester was discovered, 2.5 years after she went missing. So you're talking about, we don't know when she was placed there. So as I started to try to explain last night, there's a lot that we don't know. We don't know cause of death, and that's key, because, and nothing against Michele, certainly, and I certainly don't want to say anything to be insensitive to upset her family, but there are situations, let's face it, there's situations where people OD. It happens. There are people, they think they're going to do a simple drug, and it's spiked with fentanyl. Tragically, the way we're living now, that's not that uncommon. So when people start jumping to, serial killers, we don't even know, they'll determine, we don't even know if she was killed. We know her remains were found there. It's not a cemetery plot. Someone or some people, more than one, clearly, it would seem, moved her there, but we don't know where she was last alive. So it's an unknown, and I want to caution people. It sounds like, now listen, it's against the law, whoever did that. If someone, and this is a hypothetical, but let's just say you have some people and they're, doing something, and someone ends up overdosing, which happens. Tragically, as I said, it happens every week. And then the people panic. And then they say we have to, tragically, but dump or dispose of the body. Because many times you have people, for whatever reason, they've already been in trouble. They're afraid they're going to get more trouble. They get rid of the body. That doesn't mean necessarily that that is a murder charge. It doesn't mean it's a homicide. Now, they would have to answer. That's not what you should do. You're supposed to call 911. There's a number of different things you do. You can't do that. You can't just dump someone. So, number one, they need to determine cause of death. And then number two, now that they have the remains, they can start to piece it together. But just to put a period on that, I'm not, at this point, on this Tuesday, April 1st, I am not, the more I learn, I'm not convinced that it was a homicide. Now, state police don't exactly move that quick, but I have some people that have reached out to me with some information. And again, there are people out there that clearly there's someone that knows something, and there could be more than one person, but they need to be forthcoming with police of how she ended up there, because I can assure you the Rhode Island State Police, with Warwick Police working with them, are very anxious to try to get, and they will get to the bottom of exactly what happened with it. So I'm pretty confident, if there's at least one, if not two people out there, when the police give the phone number and say, if you know something, contact them, my suggestion would be this would be a pretty good time to contact law enforcement. But I'm less inclined to go down the road. I'm not convinced it's another Charlotte Lester case. Charlotte Lester was killed by Mark Perkins, tragically, and then buried in a shallow grave in Exeter. What I'm learning, I'm less likely to believe that, as opposed to, again, you can't just bury people, put it that way. Folks, this portion of the program, and I want to thank, Joe is just terrific. Roof Co. Rhode Island. In so many ways, if you don't have proper roofing, if you don't have a proper roof on your home or your commercial business, your structure, a lot of problems come out. Roof Co. Rhode Island. Call them for a free estimate. 401-868-7149. 401-868-7149. Roof Co. Rhode Island. Now remember, also, we've had a lot of storms, a lot of damage. They do high quality roof installed by experienced roofing professionals. And that's really your best defense against wind damage. Maybe you have a leaky roof. There's some people that live for years with a leaky roof. Or maybe you have missing, lifted, or curled shingles. Or maybe you have granules in the gutter or damaged chimney flashing. Roof Co. Rhode Island. Call today, 401-868-7149. Now, I share their Facebook page right now on this Tuesday, April 1st. Maybe you've been thinking of getting a new roof. Maybe it's time for a new roof. Roof Co. Rhode Island. Roof Co. Rhode Island. 401-868-7149. Listen, you're going to want to deal with Joe. Roof Co. Rhode Island. Well, folks, good afternoon, and I will get back to the Karen Reed case and trial, and that's where we are. In case you probably hear, you may hear traffic noise in the background. We're going to be following this. This is day one. This is jury selection. It may not seem that important to some people, but I assure you it's wildly important. Since one of the jurors from the first trial last spring is now sitting at the defense table. And to me, from what I'm observing this morning in court, Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, they're making sure they don't have someone that has a hidden bias. They want to make sure they don't have someone who is out there and is secretly a supporter, and they feel the way they can help is by getting onto the jury. So it's also an interesting dynamic. So Karen Reed is sitting up with the attorneys. And so they call up, juror one, juror two, juror three, one at a time. They go to the sidebar. You have the judge, obviously Judge Canoni. You have special prosecutor Hank Brennan, also Adam Lally. And then you have the defense team, mainly of David Yannetti and Alan Jackson, although Robert Alessi, he's also up there. And the juror from the first trial is just sitting back at the defense table. But Karen Reed herself is right there. And I'll tell you what I'm really noticing is, so they had someone, they said, all right, go step off to the side. And then the lawyers confer. And then they say, all right, come back in. And then they talk to the person more. And they say, all right, go back and step over there. And it's the other potential jurors that are watching. I know it's the process, but it would appear to be very intimidating for people that are. I mean, as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking I wouldn't want them calling me up, and especially Jackson, this guy that was just up a short time ago. He's like right in his face, and again, I don't think it's hostile. It's just you're walking into a circle, and the discussion is very, very intense. And, some of the people are dressed more casual than others. Some of the people look like maybe they were going to run to Target to get a few things. And then some other people are dressed up a little bit. But what I believe is what Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, what he brings to the table is I believe he truly understands the importance of jury selection and really drilling down and making sure that you don't have someone who is going through the motions like, oh yeah, no, I haven't heard of the case. And instead, they're out somewhere chanting free Karen Reed. So what type of questions, just quickly, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but if you're the prosecution, you don't want someone who's anti-police. You don't want someone who's anti-police, because there's definitely some things with this investigation that didn't go 100%. Not everything, but that's in any case, you really don't want someone who less than favorable view. And there's some people, by the way, that are just neutral on it. They don't hate the police. They may not like the police. They're ambivalent about it. There's other people that are very, very adamant. I told you, when I sat in a jury selection, now there's a federal trial with federal court, and there was this guy that seemed pretty rational initially, but then it turned out he had served our country in Vietnam, and then when they started to ask him, do you hold any animosity towards the government? He became like a different person. The guy was very animated. He's pretty low-key, beard. No, not, the government? You mean the government that misled me? You mean the government that sent me to, he really started. So my point is that is not someone that they wanted, I assure you, on the jury because of the bias he has towards the government. And there's a lot of different ways. I'll put it this way. They know who they're looking for at this point. I believe they have an idea of the type of juror that they want. I know that when I lived in New York City, if you read the New York Times, they did not put you on a jury. They wanted jurors who either read Newsday or the New York Post. If you read the New York Times, immediately excluded from the jury. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Listen, call Corey today, 401-283-9815. 401-283-9815 for Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. They seal coat driveways, parking lots. They offer crack filling, pothole repair, line striping. They can make your pavement look like new. They can also resurface a sports court. So whether it's pickleball or tennis or basketball, any type of sport court, they can resurface that and make it look like new. They also epoxy garages and patios. Listen, you want to use your outside and you want it to be in the best condition possible. Quality asphalt seal coating. Call Corey today, 401 283 9815. 401 283 9815. Free estimate, quality asphalt seal coating. Call Corey. Now, jumping back to Michele Romano. On the one hand, let's look at the positives. Now, listen, her family obviously wish this was a different outcome. Like so many of you, I wish this was a different outcome. You hate hearing something like this. It's so troubling that someone, whoever, would just dispose of someone in that fashion, thinking that that is acceptable. Michele had been married. I interviewed her. Her daughter is just amazing. Fallon, her sister, Valerie, is just remarkable. I mean, these people are so great. And whoever did this, it's just, you can't, they need to take accountability. It's terrible they put the family through this. I don't understand, in this day and age, if something happened, and I don't know what happened, to be very clear. I don't know what happened. The state police, they could bring up murder charges on this. Right now, we don't know what happened. But they're certainly investigating it. They're going to have to, drill down. They're going to have to figure out, first of all, cause of death. Then they need to try to determine how long has she been there, which would mean when was she put there. Someone put her there. And then they can start to piece together that way. But it's so inexcusable that someone thinks that in any way that would be acceptable, especially in light of the fact that if this turns out not to be a homicide, and I've learned it doesn't appear that she was in distress, well, that would mean most likely with someone she knew, something happened. It's so troubling. But there are people, one thing we know, there are people that know more than what they've let on. And those people need to do the right thing and come forward and communicate with police what they know, how she ended up there. I know the family, they're devastated. The family of Michele Romano is devastated at the news that her remains were found in Foster. The only upside is I know from dealing with families of missing people is the unknown that just drags on is also really difficult, where you just never know. Each day brings, could this be the day we find out? Every time they get a phone call, every time they get an email, who knows where the information is going to come from. But there are people out there, and people talk. I'm willing to bet right now that there are at least one, if not more people. And I mean, I could be surprised, but I would think somewhere in the 401 is someone that, obviously knows what happened, and that's not the way you handle things. And by doing that, I'll also say, because I know so many people watch this, especially people that might be involved in that, this is the ultimate. You want to go to the police before they come to you. And whatever the hell happened, her family deserves that. Her family, her sister, her daughter, they deserve to know what happened. And don't put them, this is outrageous that this is going on in this way. So Warwick Police, State Police, they will now build kind of like what they call, I believe, a digital footprint. They'll be able to figure out vehicles that were traveling through the area. As I've said, people don't even realize your car is tracking things, your cell phone is tracking things, there's cameras all over the place. I feel confident that state police will be able to get to the bottom of this, but the people that are involved really should come forward and just explain to the state police what happened. And also keep in mind, we're still dealing with that, as someone reminded me last night, the missing person case out of Coventry with the human remains found. It's so rotten to the family. Now that, we're more inclined to believe that that is a homicide that the Coventry police are working on. So that's two big cases right now. Women who go missing and then turn up somewhere in the form of human remains. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Arch Design Builders. So maybe now you are thinking about improving your home, doing a remodel on your home. Arch Design Builders. Call them 401-207-4124. 401-207-4124 for Arch Design Builders. I'll tell you, the dream team, you are so fortunate that you get to have a conversation with Ed and Roxanne. Arch Design Builders. Maybe it's a new kitchen. Maybe it's a new bathroom. Maybe it's a new basement. Maybe it's a new deck. Maybe you want to open up your living space. It all begins when you make that phone call to Arch Design Builders and start that first conversation with, I call them the dream team of Ed and Roxanne. 401-207-4124. They have great social media, both Instagram and Facebook. Arch Design Builders. You're going to notice the Arch difference. All right, folks, at 1:43, again, this is the real news. We are outside of the Karen Reed retrial. Today is day one of jury selection. It'll go this afternoon until they seat the jury, and it's tough to tell. They asked how many people had heard this. They, half the courtroom almost raised their hands. They need to find people that maybe you've heard about the case, but it's my understanding they want to find people who haven't formulated an opinion on the case. Now, some people may not realize, but this is going to be a much different case and different trial, than the first trial. And the reason being, well, there's a lot of different reasons. Number one, I really believe the prosecutor, special prosecutor Hank Brennan, and he just has a different style. The guy is very skilled. He is very knowledgeable. He has a gift of making his arguments very easy to understand, very brief, if you will, very effective. He's a very effective individual in the courtroom. Special prosecutor Hank Brennan, you may have heard of him. He represented Whitey Bulger as a criminal defense attorney. He is now the special prosecutor with the Reed case. Another big part of this, I also want to I know some of this is caution, and some of this is it's not for everybody, but just for some people, you have to realize, and I get it, that some people, you've never watched a trial before. I get that. If people would open up their eyes, you can actually learn a lot by watching a trial. And one of the things you learn is there has to be evidence of things. There has to be evidence of things. There's that great scene in A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise, right? Demi Moore and Jack Nicholson. And Tom Cruise says, oh, I guess we could just do the liar, liar, pants on fire defense. Folks, you can't just go in and start screaming, everybody's lying. Everybody's lying. You have to have evidence that someone is lying. And in the trial that, this past spring of last year, they I don't know how else to explain this. The defense has been unable to put Officer John O'Keefe inside the house. And I want to be very clear. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. You can't just say he went in the house. Everything has to be proven. They were unable to get him in the house. And I don't see any evidence of how they're going to get him inside the house. 9 people testified that Officer John O'Keefe never entered that house. People say, well, all 9 people are lying. Okay, that's a little bit of the liar, liar, pants on fire defense. But when you add the 9 people plus the paramedics that showed up, plus you add in the Canton police that showed up, plus you add in the Massachusetts State Police that then showed up, the CERT team, to search for evidence and so forth, you're talking about 15 people, conservatively, that are involved with a conspiracy frame-up. Now, if you're listening to that and you're nodding, saying, that's right, okay, I would just suggest that's an awful lot of people to be involved in a conspiracy. As a matter of fact, I would challenge someone that says that to come up with another example, another case where there were 15 people involved with a conspiracy. Folks, that didn't even happen with mob trials, where they were all part of the same mob family, whoever it may be, the Bonanos or the Colombos or Lucchese, whoever, or the Sopranos. It's really difficult, if not impossible, even in a mob trial, where you'd have a lot of them all saying the same thing, somebody would crack. So, but if there are people that believe that, fine. But it's so important with this to deal with, like, what's evidence. So when people say, and again, I'll admit, I don't spend a lot of time on this. I'm not going to waste a lot of time regarding people with some of the things they throw out. But if you just say, well, the judge is corrupt, well, then I don't know what where we're going with that. The police are corrupt. Suddenly everybody's corrupt. Things have to be proven. So far, they have been unable to get him inside the house. And the 9 witnesses that took to the stand, 9 people said he never entered the house. So this idea of the third-party culprit, I think it's actually on life support. Third-party culprit is, with the OJ trial, famously, they were trying that initially, that Faye Resnick, a friend of Nicole Brown Simpson, that she owed money to drug dealers. And I remember Johnny Cochran saying, have you ever heard of Brazilian necktie? That's when Brazilian drug lords come in and do that. So it never really went anywhere. And to think that they would kill someone because Faye Resnick owed them, $1,000 for an 8-ball or something? I mean, it's preposterous. What the O.J. Simpson case really turned into was police misconduct. They put the police on trial. Now, I believe that is a car in front of the, I don't know why they're blasting like that. Who would even be blasting a Michael Jackson song in 2025? I have no idea. Why do people blast music like that? Who would be blasting this? Why were you blasting it? It's a guy sitting in a red truck and a red light. Nevertheless, my point is, now, will the Karen Reed defense go after the police investigation? The police investigation is fair game. That's totally fair game. As an attorney said to me, the problem with trying to do the third culprit is then you have the burden to try to prove the third-party culprit. And apparently, in the first trial last spring, the jury didn't buy it. So now, there's another trial that's going on here. You can hear a reporter behind me. That is the doctor accused of killing his wife. They bring the guy in shackles. He's in the courtroom next to us. They're actually doing his trial in the courtroom that they use for the Karen Reed case, because of the jurors, we're all in the big courtroom. But I would caution this. If you feel all cops lie, every cop is corrupt, the judges are all corrupt, well then, here's what I know. I am certainly not going to be the one to convince you differently. If you want to believe that, you believe that. If that's been your experience, so be it. But just remember and keep an open mind that many of these accusations, they have to hold up in court. And I'm telling you that this is going to be a different type of trial. The Karen Reed retrial, to me, is going to be a very different trial simply because you have a more aggressive prosecutor, and you also can't forget, or maybe people are unfamiliar with it, but the defense in this case has already been caught in several mistruths, to put it mildly, to put it generously. And as a result of that, they don't, here's what I noticed right away. They don't have the run of the courtroom the way they did last spring. There's a gag order in place. Last spring, Alan Jackson, Karen Reed defense attorney, was like doing a walking press conference to court, doing a walking press conference outside of court, inside the courtroom. He was the king of the court. Not this time around. There's no press conference on the way into court. There's not going to be a press conference after court. And inside of court, he is on thin ice with this judge. So now, I know, if I'm not trying to convince anyone. If you want to believe the judge is corrupt, the whole system is corrupt, like I said, I'm not going to be the one to convince you. You know, I also want to use this opportunity. There was a terrible fire not long ago, and it was right on Main Street, East Greenwich, at the Hill Skeffington Funeral Home. But here's the good news. Right across from OLM, they're open. They are open for business. Hill Skeffington Funeral Home. Now remember, Hill Skeffington, funeral home and cremations. Transfer to the funeral home, place of death anywhere in the world. They'll coordinate all the details for you. You can call. You can either plan ahead for yourself, or maybe you're dealing with it right now. Hill Skeffington Funeral Home, 401-884-9222. You can also look for them on Facebook. It's Hill Skeffington Funeral Home. Coordinating plans with the clergy, coordinating plans with the cemetery. This is who you want to deal with in your time of need. Hill Skeffington Funeral Home and cremations. Call them 401-884-9222. Well, folks, 154. Now, on this Tuesday, it is my plan as we start to cover the trial. And it's the Karen Reed retrial. It's day one today of jury selection. Going forward, I anticipate at this time that we'll have some different guests that we'll talk to and so forth. But, you know, it's tough to kind of have a planned schedule right now with the jury selection that is underway. It is, this is a case that, as many of you know, has attracted really international interest. And why is that? I mean, there's just I don't know if I have the. It is. Oh wow, JR just said 52 degrees in Dedham. Yeah, it's a nice day here. Nice sunshine. It's even warmer in the sun. But I think, you know, I remember watching the Von Bulow trial. And that was really interesting. And obviously, like many other people, I got caught up in the Simpson trial. And that's really interesting. I'm telling you with this case, if you watch it, you can get a lot out of it. But only if you watch it for the evidence that is going to be put forth. And it's all about what's going to be inside the courtroom. It's all about inside the courtroom. Okay, this is different. Ted Daniel, court clerk, tells me one juror has been chosen out of the 17 screens so far. All right, that's good news. Katie Benoit of NBC 10, she's also in. She was sitting right across from me. One juror has been seated. That's not bad. That's not bad. So, okay. 17 people questioned, one chosen. Well, we're off to a good start. If they could end the day with one, Now I'm seeing right now, ABC6 has posting a story, North Providence Police looking for a missing woman. I'll look that up and I will post that. Now folks, as far as Road Patrol Live, so much of that is going to depend on, let's see how the day, you know, goes along. Okay, I'm seeing it right now. Missing person, North Providence. There it is. North Providence Police Department. I will put this out on all of our platforms. Missing person, Tiffany Singh, reported missing yesterday. She suffers from some medical condition, walking away from a residence in the early afternoon. So, all right, we'll get that out. You know, folks, like everybody else, I mean, I hate these missing person cases, but I want to be very clear. When it comes to the Karen Reed stuff, all I ask, listen, you can't be insulting. There are some people, and they feel that part of being part of the Free Karen Reed movement is you just get to be rude to people and to be obnoxious to people and insult people and be degrading to people. And if you want to behave that way, there are platforms that you can behave that way. As a matter of fact, there's some platforms that encourage it. I'm not going to engage in that. I have met and know Peg O'Keefe, John O'Keefe's mother. She is fantastic. I met and know Paul O'Keefe, his brother. They are really nice people. And I am not going to have a platform where they're mocked or they're criticized or they're ridiculed in a fashion. The good news, if you feel that way, it's like a restaurant. There are plenty of places that will accommodate you. I'm not doing that. I am not going to do that. Listen, were some mistakes made by the police? Well, that's been talked about a lot. But it doesn't mean all police are corrupt. It doesn't mean every police officer is a clown. Those of you that watch Road Patrol, we literally work with police every single night. And the police that I deal with, work as hard as they can, both men and women, and they're terrific. And they have hard jobs, and more often than not, they make the right decision, and they're there to help people. So I'm very uncomfortable with people that just feel like it's free reign to bash all this police. And also, finally, I don't understand this whole notion of, well, police stick together and they're all lying and they all stick together. If police all stick together, then why would they kill one of their own with no motive, for no reason? Hey, yeah, this guy, we just met him. Let's bring him into the basement and we're going to end his life, even though he's raising his niece and nephew. That didn't make sense the first time I heard it. It makes less sense the more I've learned about Officer John O'Keefe and his family. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, we will be back later. We're going to sign off now from Dedham and the Karen Reed trial. Great job, JR. Folks, thanks for tuning in. We'll post more updates.